I am Sebastián Auyanet, and this year I focused on people suffering energy insecurity. And I wanted to start with that question: what's energy insecurity anyway? And I want to answer that question talking to you about Kevin, who is someone that I met in the middle of a sweltering morning, in the middle of a heat wave that hit New York City back in August. And I was trying to find people who didn't have access to AC unit in order to cope with the sweltering temperatures. And I met Kevin, and Kevin invited me to his place. And of course, as you can see in that picture, he did have an AC unit, but it was a faulty AC unit. It was the air that was throwing. It was a faulty. It was a terrible smelling air that was going straight to his 2-year-old. And Kevin explained me that as a NYCHA low-income resident, he lived in one of those buildings in the area, it's barely impossible to get an AC unit in a legal way, because you need to pay for a special appliances fee, and you also need to pay for some other installation costs and stuff. This was the best that he can do. So Kevin is just one of the examples of energy insecurity, which in a way can be defined as the inability to adequate your place for being warmer in the winter or cooler in the summer. This is a number from 2006. This is the last number about people facing energy insecurity. So with the financial crisis and climate change, probably the number went way higher. And this stat is way much more fresh. This came with a study last year, and basically focuses on extreme heat in New York City. I started focusing on extreme cold when I arrived to the city and the program, and then I pivoted to extreme heat because basically my community showed to me that this was a more important issue. Some other facts: in some areas of the city, like South Bronx and Northern Manhattan, there's a lot of people who don't have an AC unit, and the numbers are pretty close to the numbers of people living below the poverty status. And these two areas in particular are heat pockets. What is a heat pocket? It's an area of the city that overheats more than the others because of a lack of green areas, because of wind dynamics, and also because of the condition of the buildings and the amount of concrete. If you live in a heat pocket and you can't cool your place, you are basically going to be baked the whole day inside your apartment, which is what happens to a lot of people. And basically, specifically the elder people and 5-year-olds, like from 5-year-olds to and below 5-year-olds, they suffer the effects of extreme heat more than the rest of the people. Elder people can die of a heat stroke in the middle of a heat wave, and the kids can suffer asthma and get that condition for their whole life. So heat waves is the #1 weather-related cause of deaths in the United States. It kills more people than hurricanes or floods, just for you two examples. And it's going to get worse. And this stat shows it particularly. It's particularly graphic about that. This is a New York State stat. So, and of course, this is less surprising, but this came last week. Of course, this is not a priority for the national government. And there's also some other issues related to this. And the top researcher in terms of energy insecurity told me that we, as with everything related to climate change, there's a framing issue. It's very tough to assign like a direct cause to this problematic, so it's very tough to face it and tackle it and generate and raise awareness about it. And then after we do that, we will be able to establish responsibilities and claim for solutions. I also learned quickly that there was a huge information gap. And I learned it by talking with Kevin and people like him, and also by reaching people working in public office and telling me, hey, people still don't know that there are some programs that might help them to get their place cooler. I spoke to some of them about the presence of a cooling assistance program, which basically allows you to get a free AC unit if you meet certain conditions, and people didn't even know about it. And even if they knew, they were skeptical about actually getting an AC unit. And this was one of my biggest findings through the year. While working on a data story, I learned that 75% of the New Yorkers who applied this year for the program couldn't get an AC unit. So I decided to try to help these people know more, to raise awareness about the issue, to let them know that this was a critical issue and that they could get help. So this was a very insular and diffuse community. Finding someone experiencing energy insecurity in New York City is like finding a needle in a haystack. It's a very diffuse community. It's not digitally prone. And there's also, of course, the lack of awareness component. How did I know this? My listening process included several interviews and conversations with researchers, the affected community organizers, and also I did some reporting, mostly data stories. I went to a lot of events, and I also went through a lot of research. And also, last but not least, I failed miserably by trying to find my community in digital platforms. And I did a couple of Facebook pages, and that didn't work. I couldn't find my community there. So I produced some stories. Some of those went to my publication in Medium called The Hidden Heat, and some others went to Adapt NY, which is an organization that I partner with, and I'm going to elaborate more about that later. These are some of my Medium posts and the metrics. Basically, not all of these posts are related to energy insecurity, like specifically, but I mentioned it like in every single one of them because I was describing the way I was approaching my community and getting close to it. So I think that in a way, these posts also helped me raise awareness about it. Surprisingly, I learned how to do video at least in a decent way. So I produced a lot of some videos, got some views, and also I was honored by being a part of the Cuny Resilience Journalism Fellowship. It was the first year that the fellowship was started here in Cuny. Yeah, I'm really happy in that picture because I was with all those like pretty smart, really smart science journalists. And I learned a lot about how New York City tackles resilience issues and weather-related issues, either from policy and also from within the communities. And I developed some tools for my community. Specifically, I worked on a web application in which you can check if you are eligible for getting an AC unit, and you can see these are some of the slides. And also, I did a postcard journalism project that is aimed to the community, and this is Your Hidden Heat is probably the biggest project that I involved with, or the most important at least, because it tries to find people at their homes. Energy issues are a very personal and deep, issues and intimate ones, and I wanted them to have something that they really would like to have in their homes, to give it as a present for some other neighbors. And of course the postcards have some information about these issues, but also it includes an invitation to a platform in which I want this community to be together and to be able to connect with each other and help each other. So I wanted to do something for the community, but with the community. And while I was doing this, I was starting to work with Adapt NY as a community editor, and they had in mind a neighbor-to-neighbor project, and so in a way, I started to contribute to that, and I helped them to with the outreach process and to reach some communities. And in a way, if we are going to make a neighbor-to-neighbor network in northern Manhattan, in which people are going to be able to help each other and communicate with each other and be alerted about heat waves, we need a lot of people. So we act as a partner of Adapt NY. They work on the Harlem Heat project last year, which is a project focused on measuring indoor temperatures inside northern Manhattan homes. And now they are taking the next step by doing the neighbor-to-neighbor network. So basically, my work overlapped with that. So I learned that resilience is not just a matter of policy. And while being a community editor, for Adapt NY, I reached 8 organizations that might be inclined to be a part of this neighbor-to-neighbor network in the future. And this is my estimation, but probably we are going to reach a bigger amount of people. So my final takes about my experience is that resilience issues, as as this one that I was trying to tackle and help people with, demand understanding from policy making, but also from within the community, experimenting a lot, and prevention. We cannot help them when the heat wave hits the area. It also demands using the community skills and motivation. We need buy-in from inside the communities. And I learned through this year that through my whole career, I wanted to get sources. I worked to get sources that give me information. And now I know that if I'm going to be a social journalist, I need partners, people that can elevate what I do and help me reach the community in a different way. So that's pretty much it. Thank you so much. Yeah.